Good morning. This is your daily reading with Raven, using some oracle cards, using some tarot cards. And I'm kind of thinking about abundance. We're going to do something for the decade coming up for 2020 to 2030 in relationship to abundance, to making some prosperity and wealth of all kinds. Of all the kinds that don't also make us miserable, for sure. Real prosperity. Excuse me. Yeah, so here are our stones. I'm not so much channeling through these stones. I mean, maybe I am. I don't know. But these just really called out to me for obvious reasons. It's a Shiva Lingam. Literally a stone, not a crystal in this case, from a sacred river in India. I know we've talked about these a bit before, but look at this papa. Yes. And then a carnelian. I had this on my Yule altar. This is like a dark red-brown carnelian. These can come in some very red colors. Oh, beautiful markings on the back. And then what I consider to be the front, clearly some sexual symbolism going on there. So, a little male and female happening. And just bringing this energy into abundance. And this is a root chakra, and this is a third. These are both all sort of like lower manifestation, creativity, all of that good stuff. So already I have some amazing cards out. I chose these from the Shaman Mystic Oracle, never get the name right, deck. The Crow and the Eagle. That's pretty amazing. I didn't even know that those cards were in there, and they complement each other perfectly. And then let's just do a few from the traditional tarot, the Two of Wands, the Ten of Wands, and the Nine of Pentacles. So some very kind of practical cards going on for our manifestation. So doesn't that make sense? So I'm going to start with these. These are kind of the more profound of them. So the crow is emblematic of, symbolic of truth in this deck. I think that's like a nautilus shell and a sun and a moon. Crow being a close relative of raven, so that's where my mind goes, of course. These are prophetic animals. These are messenger animals. These are creation story animals. And in this deck, the truth means to kind of like the truth that you tell yourself is what it's asking you to look at. What are the stories that you tell yourself? What parts of your life right now are not ringing true? You know, it could be those stories. It could be a relationship. It could be the path that you're walking on. But I love that this is sort of almost an orientation card, orienting us into a pathway that will be sustainable for a whole decade. Not very many people can live a half-truth for a decade without maybe being crushed by it or something. But yeah, I feel like anyone listening to this podcast, I mean, whatever this is, video, will know that, the truth is important. Truth is important to them. So the crow. And then, so this is sort of like our foundation for going forward into the decade, a little bit of groundwork. And then we have the eagle. The eagle in this deck is, the eagle sees everything in great detail. It sees the detail as well as the big perspective. It makes its nests in the loftiest, highest places on earth. this is a really soaring kind of spirit. And what it's asking for is to get out of the dregs when you're thinking about 2020 to 2030, to think big, to do your blue sky dream kind of thing. And by doing that, it gives a perspective that you're able to start with the big picture and then go down to the little details. And that is the medicine of eagle. Eagle is really about like freedom and courage. So I think that these two things complement them well. And it's like, in what ways do you not feel free? And I think that that is where you will find the half-truths. In what ways do you feel free? And that is where you will find the truths. So these guys are working together to bring us as high and as successful as we have the capacity to be. And so then we have these little cards, 2 of Wands, 10 of Wands, 9 of Pentacles. It is interesting, this is sort of like the beginning and the end of the meaty part of the 10s, the fire. So obviously we're looking at action, we're looking at transformation, we're looking at applied stuff. So starting with the 2 of Wands, this is kind of the dreamer card, sort of like a practical dreamer. He stands in his castle in the Rider-Waite and looks out to sea with the world in his hands. And I always feel like this is a card of sort of being drawn out to the horizon and yet keeping perspective, knowing that you have every opportunity, and knowing that kind of from a firm foundation. He stands on his castle with his emblem of roses, and this is of course also spiritual foundation, psychological foundation, all of that. This is foundation, the crow. So another kind of underline to foundation and perspective. And then we have the 10 of Wands. So the 10 of Wands is the completion of the fire element, the completion of a journey. Interesting, it's also transition. 9 is sort of the fulfillment of the suit, and then the 10 is where it starts to turn over, and like the next process is already starting to happen. And what happens with the Wands is that there's sort of a resorting of responsibility and effort at the end of this process. So, I think that this is just sort of a medicine card, a warning card in a way, to keep this as a part of your process the entire time. This being to not take up all the sticks at once, do them one by one, delegate. Make sure that you've gathered the right sticks. This is a little bit of a strategy card. It's a strategy card to make sure that you're not weighed down by the process, and you keep that eagle eye in there. So that's interesting. I've kind of been resisting for myself, like having the larger view first, and all of these are really stressing the importance of that. These really do feel sequential to me. I didn't necessarily pull them that way. I didn't have the spread laid out that way. But my intuition is telling me that the 2 of Wands comes first, the 10 of Wands comes next, and then the 9 of Pentacles comes last. So in that process, you have this visioning and this foundation work, and then you have this strategy and not overburdening yourself and building sort of a team around you, I think, not doing it all on your own. And then you have the 9 of Pentacles. So the 9 of Pentacles is the lady in her garden. It's having kind of enough of a mastery of your physical surroundings, pentacles being the physical, being your money, your wealth, your home, your health, your home. So this is sort of the lady at home in the manifested world, being kind of at peace with your capabilities and accomplishments and able to sort of invite other people into the garden at will. Like I said, this is the 9. So 9s are the completion of the suit. This is all of those material pursuits at their peak. So this is just a very good gleam of light at the end of this tunnel of this decade towards real success. Real success. Thank you very much. So yeah, I like all of these. Lingam, Yoni. We're talking about a balance there. Obviously, creativity, warmth, passion, and you know, when not opposites, I don't like that, not opposites, but complementary, I would say, forces, and you know, that applies to inside every single person. This is the yin and the yang, which comes out in gender into certain extents in different ways for different people, but the masculine and feminine forces are within each individual. So I feel like that balance of complementary ways of being is essential to achieving this. This is a balance of the yin and the yang, the masculine and the feminine. This is a little more masc and this is a little more femme. I really hate the gendering of all this, but it's not a lot of words in English, concepts in English that complement reality. Anyway, and all coming out of these soaring, flapping, somewhat wild progenitors, inspirations, where you're moving from the truth and looking at the big picture and coupling that with bravery. And with these two things, you build your nest up in the clouds, not the clouds, and up in the tallest tree. So really shooting for the tallest trees in 2020 to 2030. Yeah, much love. Thank you for tuning in, staying to the end. That means a lot to me. I would love your comments, wondering what are your plans? What are your plans for 2020 to 2030? Have you even thought that kind of far ahead? Yeah, I'm inviting you to look into the big picture today. I am going to be coming at you later this week with some really great end-of-year discounts for a full reading. So I hope to see you in person soon. In person or over, FaceTime. Okay, much love. I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.